All right, got us a big Alpine. Let's go take a look at this thing. This roof is atrocious. Look at here. Climb some stairs. Look at that. Gadzooks. That is a hot mess. That is definitely a failed roof for sure. Doesn't sound bad. Those are what they call vents. They're fake roof vents. Fake. They don't do anything. So a lot of people think they do something, but they don't. They think that they vent. It actually is a vent. Like if you took it off, you'd see a screen in there, but it doesn't do anything. So let's go to school. This is your house. Sometimes you'll have louver vents up here, or you may have a ridge vent up here. In order for air to flow, you'll have a soffit vent, and the soffit vent will come up like this. That's called a lower draw. That's how it works. If you close this off, this doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You need to have that lower draw for it to work. So all that said, that can't work. One, it's got insulation right up underneath it, so that's not going to help. And there's no lower draw. See, there's nothing along this edge to give it that draw. It does zero. That is another scam from the RV industry to tell you that, hey, we put a roof vent in there. It'll keep your coach cooler. No, it doesn't work that way. It does absolutely zero. The most that you could do with that is if you wanted to run a wire, like maybe pop that off and try to fish a wire. There's another one up there. You could do that. But these are your typical RV roofs. You can see it's in here. You can see it's a mess. I mean, everybody will say, well, you know, this here, you should keep putting more on. That's what I say. If you look how deep this is, you keep putting this on, you're gonna have a moat going around here. Same thing with the vents. But there was a tree that hit through here, so that's one of the reasons why it's here. So we're gonna get this all tore apart, and then we're gonna replace this antenna as well. Either replace it or close it off, one of the two. I don't know what they selected. But this antenna, if you have one of these, this is important right here. So you want to seal that. You want to seal it right there. The water will trickle down that wire, it'll get in there, and if it does, it'll leak right into the coach. So you want to make sure you get that squared away. And you can see the gasket up in there, barely see it. I don't think I could get my finger up underneath there. And you got a slight little drop already in there. So that gasket's all wore out. And that's the issue that you need to solve with a curb. Curb will elevate it and it'll keep it all out of the roof line so the water can go around it. That's the purpose of a curb. So, you know, when you see these companies or these other shops that just do the same thing the manufacturer did, well, obviously that didn't work out well. So why are you going to copycat a failed system? That doesn't make sense at all. So let's put a good roof on it and be done with it. Same thing with this. You can see all that debris and everything that gets caught up underneath there. That's what dries out that gasket. So we'll say you do maybe a spray or roll-on roof. You want to go in that direction. Hey, I'm thinking of doing that. So what they're probably going to do is probably tear all this up. That would just be the smart thing to do. Tear all this up. They're going to tear all this up, and then they'll probably say, well, you need a sheet of, you know, decking. And this is just more likely it's cheap OSB that's under here. Very, very rarely do I ever see plywood, but they'll replace that sheet. The last time that we heard, it was like $250 for one sheet, 4x8 piece that you could get over at Home Depot for $20. That's a lot of cheese right there. So we'll say they replace that. Then what they'll do is just coat everything or spray over everything. That's what they're going to do. You're still going to have this problem with the air conditioner being that way. And when that air conditioner, a gasket fails, it will rot out the roof. It'll rot the roof out. So it's not going to solve anything. The other issue is around here, around your vents, around your plumbing vents, any vent. If you have to replace one of these, you got to tear into their product. And once you tear into their product, you're going to have to get your new lens on, vent, whichever the case may be. And then you're going to have to return to them to reapply, to put another coat on. That's how their warranty reads. So, you know, do some due diligence. If you think that's your avenue and the way you want to go, thumbs up, have at it. Our roofs are a little different here. We design them so anybody can follow behind us. Any tech, even the owner himself or herself, can get up here and change out a vent, can change out that. Well, plumbing, they won't have to change out because there's no way they can leak the way we do them. But if they had to do an air conditioner or whatever, skylight, they can do it themselves without having to come back to us. It's easy peasy. So the reason they do that is because their product, they call it proprietary. They don't want you to know what it is. I don't know, I like to know what you're putting on my roof. A lot of times they don't want to tell you what they're putting on there. But what we're going to be putting on here is a Carlisle brand, which is a nationwide brand. Company's been in business for over 100 years. We're going to be putting down their TPO membrane. It's a Carlisle TPO, which means thermoplastic. And we'll have curbs, everything will get all heat welded in there. So now everything's up off the roof line. That's the way it's supposed to go. That's the way a real roof functions. So what these companies are trying to do, and the reason why the industry does them like this is because this is quick. This is super quick. Cut a hole, put butyl on the back, squash it down, run 28 screws around it, and then slobber it with self-leveling. Ta-da! Get it out the door. Same thing with this. Butyl, squash it, self-leveling. Ta-da! And that's not the way you do it, because doing the detail takes time. They don't want to do that. They definitely don't want to be spending any more time on these than they can. So then what they do is, in the owner's manual, they'll say, well, you got some maintenance to do on your camper. We want you to go up there every few months and put some more lap sealant on. The lap sealant in itself is designed to fail, because if it lasted, you should only have to do it one time, right? We don't do it. All the products we use, we have never ever had to recaulk, reseal a coach, period, ever, because we use all commercial products. They don't fail like this. But could you, and even on the RV factories, they have curbs. If you were able to get up on their roof, you'll see their office wood, you'll see a curb. You'll see these elevated up off the roof line, air conditioner elevated up off the roof line. So they know that's how you put together a real roof. They just don't do it because it takes too much time. Any other flat roof you look at, anywhere, is all going to have curbs on it, except for an RV. You know, it's their cash cow. Selling maintenance products for an RV industry is a $1 billion a year industry, literally. Do the math yourself. You can go on AAA and kind of figure out how many coaches there are that are registered. AAA has a pretty good number on that. Last I checked, it was about 1 million. So then figure out how much your dyke core is, or whatever you want to put on here, whatever it is, some self-leveling, your conditioners, your coatings, all of this stuff. Factor all that in there and do the numbers yourself. It's a $1 billion a year industry. Real roofs don't need this type of maintenance. Once you put them on, you're done. This is a no-touch roof. That's what our customers like about our roof system. We do free inspections. Nobody's doing free inspections. Nobody. Spray and roll on, they're not coming back to check anything for you. They don't care. Thank you for your money. We appreciate it. See you, bye. Come on back when you want to spend some more money. That's the attitude. Here, we want to see you come back. I want to see the work. I like to see it. You know, everybody should be inspecting it anyways. But most people don't know anything about a roof system. So how is that fair to throw that responsibility back on the owner who knows zero about it? There's a lot of even older folks that know zero. They don't even want to climb up on a roof. These are the customers that come in and have us do these roofs. They don't want to deal with them anymore. So we're going to tear this off. We'll see what the underside looks like, and I'll show you some more on it. All right, we're getting some decking up. It figured to be easier to. They just pinned them. That's all it was. They're not even screwed down. They're just pinned. So you can see all the rot right here. This is from the skylight. Typical. See some moisture coming in there. That's not rotted. I've seen worse. That's what I'm looking at right there. This is one of those units that get mounted right from the top. Let's see if I can take a better look at it. Look at these screws. If this stuff worked, you wouldn't be seeing all these rusty screws. And you shouldn't have to keep applying it. People say that, oh, you're just not doing it right, you got to do all this maintenance. You shouldn't have to do all that, is my point to all of this. You can see it's just stapled in there. That's all it was. But if that stuff lasted, the products I use, you don't have to go back around it. You have to keep putting it on. But that's what it looks like, right up in there. I don't want to tear it all apart. Well, maybe it's just some debris on there. Probably some pine needles or something. I'm just trying to show you what we got for rotted wood. But like I said, we only cut the cut the seam where the decking came together, it was just a lot easier to pull apart. This is useless. So this foil underneath here, it really doesn't do anything. The whole purpose of this is to reflect UV light. And you can go do your own research on this if you want, but they do make a board like this. It's even OSB, but it has Soundboard makes one, Solar Board rather, and LT Tech makes one, LP. They make one as well. And you need to have a 3/4 inch gap from the bottom of here underneath, and you can see you don't have that because the insulation is right up against there, which is good. At least it's got good insulation. But in regards to this doing anything, it isn't reflecting anything. It's not like if you didn't have it on there, you go, wow, I noticed a difference. We need to get that on there. Nothing like that at all. So in the roofing material we put on is going to reflect a lot more UV light than this cheap stuff right here. That's for sure. Because it's commercial grade. That's what it's designed to do. It has more olefin in it. So, but we'll pull all this off, and then we'll take a look at the trusses and everything else and the ductwork. And this is what we do. So we want to make sure everything is sound up underneath here before we put new decking on it, before we put a new roof on it. I want to make sure everything is right before we do all that. So now that we have the insulation out, we're going to be looking for any broken trusses, if there are any structural damage. We're also going to be looking for any ductwork damage. We want to make sure these, see that right there? That's a good size hole right there. I gotta get that straightened away. So that's what we're looking for. The other side doesn't look quite as bad. Then we come down here. That one does over there. I can see it from here. Look at there. You got a couple right there. Let's see if we go around. That's what's good about having all this scaffold the way we do them. You walk right around and work comfortably. We're looking for any wires that are coming up. Like these wires that are coming up over here, they're in far enough and they're coming through the ceiling. But the other ones come through a ferrule. They're probably back over there. I'll go over there and take a look. But that's what we're looking for. So this section seems pretty good. We're gonna, whoop, over there. Almost missed it. Right in there. So, let's, here's that one there. Wow, that's a good size one. And this one under here. So this is where all that cold air is going to be blowing. Well, that one over there is really bad. Alright, so the battery died. Went and got a new battery. Now we're looking at these 120 lines, which these are okay. Sometimes they'll go down through a ferrule, and these are the things that we look for. Depends on who's building it. But they'll sometimes they'll go through a ferrule, and we protect those, meaning protect the wire from the ferrule, because that's an issue for sure. So otherwise, I mean, this isn't the worst one we've ever seen, but we still do have a couple of good breaches in here we need to correct. And going back, these are some of the things that you're not going to get squared away when you have a spray or roll-on roof done. They're not going to do all this. This isn't in there. They want to just get you in, get you out. That's it. So our goal is a little different here. We want to make sure you don't have any trouble down the road with anything. So these things here that are starting to break free, and the ones that already are broken free, those ones, how do you fix those once you have the roof on? You got to access it somehow. So So now people are running their air conditioner and they're saying, hey, I'm not feeling all this air coming through my ducts. And I've shown it on many, many videos. If this is the first one you've watched, I show it on all of them. Almost all of them have breaches. That mobile suites we did, that's posted up here, that one I believe it had 12 or 13 breaches in it. That's quite a bit, and they don't seem like much, but you have this little bit of air, that little bit of air, trust me, it adds up, and now you're not getting that airflow. So people say, well, it must be the air conditioner, and then some guy sells you an air conditioner, and it's not the air conditioner, you know, and now you just spent $3,000 on an air conditioner. So these are things you want to check. These things are put together really poorly. They're slapped together. It doesn't matter the brand. You know, even this one here, all of them that we've worked on, they're all about the same. Some have wooden trusses, some have aluminum trusses, but otherwise they're pretty much the same design. Even these wooden trusses on another coach, they're the same design. They get them from the same vendor. They have the same specs, the same arch, the same everything, pretty much. There's a few that are a little different, but overall they're pretty much the same. Here's my point. They're all going to have like 3/4. I've seen some that are even OSB, or again, they may be aluminum. But my point is that they're putting them together so they can get them out, get them built, get them out, get them sold. That's their motto. So again, you go and have this done, and you say, hey, just spray that roof. And what do we have? One over on this other side over here somewhere, we had by the skylight, we had a bad sheet. So they're going to just replace that one sheet for you. There you go. That one sheet's done. And I could probably charge you about $250 for it, from what I understand. It's a pretty hefty price. So how does that fix these big, you know, these holes here? That doesn't. So now they cover over it, and that's it. So now these are some of the things you want to consider when you have a roof done. But if that doesn't bother you and you want to do it, hey, thumbs up, go have it done. I'm not. They're definitely cheaper than us. I won't even try to argue that. But we want to make sure you don't have any issues with your coach at all. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to glue down all of the decking. It's going to get glued. That's important because these things rack and twist and flex quite a bit, and that glue is going to help stifle that. And our RV industry is spinning this narrative that you want them to flex, you want them to move, they have to move. That's the way they're designed. That's a lie. It's as big of a lie as self-leveling, because when all that energy's got to go somewhere, where is it going to go? It goes into the fasteners, and when the fasteners loosen up, what else loosens up? If you guess caulking, you'd be right. So now you got leaks, but it holds the whole coach together. You need to have these glued together. So and that's what we're going to do. We'll end up gluing it down, and we're going to obviously we're going to staple it down. We're not going to throw a whole bunch of. They use pin nails in here, but I think actually there's a couple of staples over there. But you definitely want to staple it, because if you start flying screws all the way through here, it's enough to really get a good tight securing to the truss. You're just going to end up splitting this, because this is cheap. This is just soft pine. It's just white pine. It's light, and it's good for its application, just not with screws. So you want to staple all that down, and once we get all that done. But again, these are some of the things you're not going to get when you just have a sprayer roll-on. That's just a kind of and do your own research if you want. But some people think I'm bashing these roll-on and spray-on roofs. I'm not. I'm just saying they have a place, but that place is not on to replace a roof on an RV. Those coatings, like I had said before, were really designed for a commercial roof that have already had all these things done, that have curves, that have everything it needs. It's already been put together properly, and now it's just trying to get more longevity out of the roof system, the actual membrane or whatever the roof may be. Because there's a whole bunch. It could be a membrane, it could be, you know, built up turn gravel, blah 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 blah. There's a lot of different recovery systems for different applications, is my point. But so keep all that in mind. Let us get all this. Everything looks pretty good wire wise and everything, and we just want to make sure everything's out of the way. I'm going to check this bundle here. See, look at there. So that all that weight of that wire is just really sitting on that ductwork. I don't really like it. So there is, we're going to look at this, and if there's a possibility that I can cut that ductwork and drop it below it, because that is really heavy on there, then I probably will do that, because it's just a lot easier to get it there and keep it off the ductwork. You know, it'll score into it like it's doing, and then it'll start breaking the duct. But you can see right there, well, hopefully you can, see those gouges? Those are things, here's some more. You don't want that, because then it's going to breach into the ductwork. It's just foam. It's just cheap foam. So we want to fix all this nonsense. and get it right. All right, let us get to work. So these are the wires that I was telling you about. That there, what they're coming out of, that's called a ferrule. And there you go, we can see that. Hold on. See how it's digging into the wire? That's an issue. I mean, I joke and I say, hey, they're not going to spend one more red cent on your coach. This is your red cent. This is how easy this fix is. Those are actually code on electrical system for residential and commercial. But all the industries, they don't have any code, only the crap they make up. So that's how easy it is. That's important, because when that wire breaches, eventually, if it, you know, there's a good likely chance it can, then how are you going to fix that? You're going to have to start digging out a whole bunch of stuff to try to basically troubleshoot this. It's going to cost a lot of money, and all we had to do was just put in these little plastic pieces that are literally probably about, you know, 2 or 3 cents. That's all they are. And these are what they are. They're little bushings. That's all they are. You can get them at Home Depot, Lowe's, or wherever. They're that's what they need. But again, this isn't stuff you're going to get from anywhere else, and I don't want to see anything, you know, a simple fix like that. Boom, now we just solved the problem. So if anything else arises, this guy knows he doesn't have to come up here into the roof system and try to look for a breach, because we just fixed it. Now we're going to get the decking on. This is a little wider than 8 foot, so we got to put a strip in here, and then we're gluing everything down. You can see all the glue up underneath there, but everything gets glued. We already went through and re-taped up all the duct work and protected the wires. And then what we did, you can see, is blowing in insulation. We tucked that up underneath the ducts, because normally this insulation won't get up underneath there. So we just put some up underneath there to make sure that that's nice, going to stay nice and cold when it comes in. So we're we got a little bit more up here and stuff, but we got everything all ready to get decked, and she's about ready to go. That's what we're working on. So we're gluing all the trusses, and we did notice that there was a piece missing there. We got a piece in there, and then we glue here and here. We want that right up against here. So now it's all bonded together. That's how we do it here. Well, we got all the decking glued down. Now this particular coach is 99 wide, actually almost 100 wide. So we had to put the little strips in here because the plywood's only 8 foot. So we got those, we got everything all glued. There's a couple of areas that are a little proud, and you know, like probably even like right here, it's a little proud. We're gonna wait for the glue to dry, and then we'll come back and sand that down just so it looks clean and nice. So in the meantime, what we're gonna do is get the air conditioners cleaned, and we're working on that right now. But get all the decking on there. This is BC grade 1/2 inch plywood. We don't use OSB. That stuff's just junk. We don't use it. All right, let's go take a look at the ACs. So what we do, there's a whole bunch of crud in here. You want to comb that out. You can just use a wire brush like this. It's just nice and easy. You're trying to get those fins back. You definitely want to get that crud out of there. So the way the air conditioner works, this portion here is what's pulling the air from the cabin inside the coach. Comes in, goes through the evaporator, then it gets blown back down through here. So you can see how we get all this sudsed up. If this doesn't drain properly, it's also not sitting right, but if it doesn't drain properly, that could build up. And then when this fan is spinning, it can send water back down. So you want to make sure that these drain ports are all clear. You can see like this one down here, that's clear. So you want to make sure they're all clear when you do it. So this here, you want to try and blast the hose this way to push all that debris out of these fins, because that's what's going to keep this thing cool and operate properly. So now as the warm air is coming in, hitting the cold air in the evaporator, that's what makes the condensation, so you have it drain here. So the advantage to having these up on a curb is now you don't have pollen and dirt and everything, because normally these sit right on the roof. This is clear. You got a lot more room for this to drain. You don't have pollen or anything trying to clog it up. The other thing you want to make sure is, you can see we got some beetle bugs in there, some stink bugs, so they'll get caught in those drains, and that can impede it, and these little things like that. So we already have these off. We had to take them off anyways, and I also am going to put a couple little legs back here like we normally do to give it some balance when we put it on the curb. So we just drag them outside. We get the fork truck, bring them outside, and We just wash them down. This one had a wasp nest in it. It wasn't very big, but this is just a little different unit, but it still has this drain port in this tray. So there's some bugs and stuff down in there, and that's what we want to get all that cleared out, because those little critters will clog this up, and then you'll have that, again, you can have that water getting blown back in from the fan back inside. So we're going to clean all this, and then it'll be done. All right, so now it'll be working properly, and someone doesn't have to come up behind us and try to service it just for a cleaning, you know. And those, keeping the unit clean is going to help everything else run properly. It's not stressing out all the other components, so it's not working as hard. So you also want to try and get in there and wash all that down if you can. So we stick the hose in there and just try to wash everything out as best we can. And it's really that simple. This cover comes off, and then there's another cover that comes on here. You shouldn't be getting any bees and bugs in here. This should be sealed up. So if you are, that means the bugs are somehow getting in like through here, and they're somehow working their way back in there, unless they're trying to sneak up through the porthole if it's big enough. I don't know. But you really want to double check all this to be sure. And then you check the gasket. So the gasket on this one is, actually it's right here, and you can feel how plush that is. So there's nothing wrong with this gasket at all. So we're good with it. And the same on that one, we already checked it. But that's how you would check it. If it's not spongy, then, and it's dry and even kind of hard, then you know that it's got some issues. And these are the bolts that they use to hold the unit down. They just drove them down in there, and that generally is not a good deal, because all they do is put some self-leveling on there, and most of the time we find all those to start compromising. If somebody services it, this is all that's holding it, and what happens is that the wood underneath it gets wallowed out, and when it gets wallowed out, then once that wood gets wallowed out, now it doesn't have the holding power, and then you start getting leaks in there. But we're going to put some other mounts on here, and the mounts we're going to use is going to be threaded bolts, and the bolts will come up, and then all you have to do is undo a nut, and it'll always stay there, so there's no issue of trying to wallow out a board, and it'll be sealed as well. So we'll show you that, obviously, when we get done with the project. We'll show you how they are, unless you've already seen other videos we do. So like I said, that's all we're doing, is just flushing it out. Just keep rinsing and rinsing and rinsing. It'll just take a few minutes, but like you said, it's worth it. And you know, at least it's done, it's clean. So all right, back on the roof of our Alpine. This passenger side has already been done, already been glued. So you can see on here, you can see that sheen. You can see the glue over here. Some of it's already set up, but this right here isn't. So this is what's called flashing off. So you gotta basically, some people call it drying. Technical term is flashing off. But once it is flashed off, we're gonna roll it over, and then we can start assembling the curves and putting everything else on there. But you can see we've got all our strips right here. And we also put new shoulders on here. We do the metal shoulders on here, and that protects the siding from the roofing. We did all that, and so we're ready to go. It's just a matter of, like I said, time. Just let it flash off, and then we'll roll it over, and we can get going with everything else. So far so good, and she's coming along. All right, so we're getting ready to put the curb down for the skylight. But what we did is we wrapped it all the way around, and this is the ceiling right here. I put this little gutter on here, put one on the other side. So this is going to be an intake. That's going to be a solar fan. And what happens on these lenses, they'll create a condensation on the top. Well, we'll say you have in the winter or the cooler times of the year, you have some dew, or frost on top of the lens. It's also on the inside of this lens. So what happens is when the sun comes up, it's going to evaporate what's on top. So now I've got an inner lens, and then I've got this outer lens. So I've got two lenses, so I got this gap in here. That's what's the whole situation we got going on. Sun evaporates what's out the top, but what's on the inside of this lens, on the inside on the top, it can't get evaporated. So what it ends up doing is it ends up diffusing down to condensation, and then it will get into the roof deck, or it could get into, you know, the framing. It could get into the ceiling. So I don't want that to happen, of course. So that's why we put the intake, and there's a solar fan. That's what we're going to put on there. So what happens is now when the sun comes up to evaporate what's on the top, that fan over here is going to kick on. When it kicks on, then it's going to keep pulling a cycle of air all the way. It's going to go up over the inner lens, and it's just going to keep air flowing through it. So should the skylight lens in itself, if it breaks, cracks, whatever, I still don't want all that water getting in there. So that's why I cladded this whole thing with aluminum. I put a little strike of caulking in there. This is all returned anyway, so even if I don't put it in there, it's not going to leak. But I'll probably put some caulking in there. But the whole idea to it is that if you see a leak right down in there into your shower, well, then you know you got a skylight issue. So it's not going to damage anything. So when we put the curb on here, we're going to seal it all anyways. You know, it'll obviously be heat welded to the main roof, but I'm talking about like on the inside, we're going to seal all this as well. So no water can get in anywhere around. That's the whole purpose of this. So we'll say the crack on the skylight is over on this side. I don't want it to come down and get inside my little vent here and then start wicking back that way. So now it'll hit. I made this little crown like this on purpose so it'll just drain off. And like I said, if a customer sees that, then they go, hey, we got an issue with the skylight and it's leaking in our shower. You know, probably, maybe if it did crack here, probably going to be in the outside of the shower, but you see my point. We're protecting all that. So there's just a piece of ductwork. You can see it right there. It just runs in, and then there's another one right here that we sealed up and everything, and we'll put that other one right in there. So that's essentially how she works. So we're going to get ready to get all that together, and we'll get the lens on here and so forth, and that will get us. So, well, we're done with our Alpine. Ready to go. There's our stamp right there. June 25. So I want to thank the customer for bringing this to our shop. We appreciate the work. Everything you see here, we fabricated. Everything here, and you can see now everything is up on a curb. These are curbs. It elevates the air conditioner, the vent, the skylight, elevates it up off the roof line. That's the way a commercial roof works. So all of that's heat welded. You won't ever have to put any self-leveling on anything. It's done. So you don't even, this roof will never have to come off. Down the road, this roof here is designed for commercial building. So it's the warranty on it is 20 years on a commercial building. But RVs don't see the kind of exposure like a commercial building does. So all that said, you know, you're gonna yield probably 25 years out of this thing. And at that point, if it looks like it's reaching failure, or even close to 30, if it looks like it's reaching failure, that's where all those coatings come in. Those were designed for flat roofs with curbs. So when you put the other coatings on there, the spray coatings and all of those, like I think I've already gone over, they end up spraying over around the vent, they spray around the skylight, they spray, you know, everything, and even all the way down to here, right, on your gutter. So if you have any damage to your gutter, if you have any damage to your skylight, your vents, you have to pull all that up. The way I designed this roof system is for anybody to follow behind us. Anybody can. Somebody else, if they don't want to bring it to us, they can replace their own skylight lens, they can replace their own vent, even their air conditioners. So what we did on the air conditioner, they had 4 bolts right here. So what we did is inside here, normally on the air conditioners, this is a roof mount. And when I say roof mount, I mean obviously it's on the roof, it gets mounted, but what I mean is they actually had lag bolts that went down from the frame into the roof. So I changed that up, and inside on a normal one, we'll say, well, a different style would be if you go inside the coach, you'll see a filter box. Up inside the filter box, if you take it down, is a metal plate. In each corner of those metal plates, there are long bolts that go all the way up into the frame. So that's how you would put in squeeze. It would basically, when you tighten it up with the metal plate there, it squeeze it down. It's called a compression fitting, which would squeeze down that gasket. So this one is a little different. Like I said, they just typically mount these ones there because there's no filter box. This ceiling is just opened, meaning like you're not going to see it there. So all that said, I designed the curb so those 2 bolts that I was just talking about are inside. You take the cover off, you can replace them there. These are galvanized bolts that I put in the back, and they're all threaded. So if a tech has to come up here, pulls the cover off, he can see those 2 bolts clearly, and then he can undo these ones here, do his work if he has to. We've already washed them, cleaned them, and everything else. Everything's operating fine. So it just makes it easier for a tech to not be able to kind of mess up something in the sense of having to put a lag bolt in that may get stripped out in the roof. And then when it does get stripped out, you know, it's going to be a leak. You got to slobber that self-leveling around there. That's not the right way you seal stuff up. So I just changed that whole dynamics of it, and it's that simple. So we have a couple of stands in the back, and all that does is give it balance. So on the front, I have another piece. So this is counterflash. That's what it's called, counterflash. So obviously you got water coming this way, but you got water coming down, and I don't want water getting back into that foam gasket. So I put this piece on here, and that pushes it below the curb. On the curb is a counter flash that I designed in. So this is going to be my counter flash right here, this. So as water comes across the roof, it's going to, especially on a heavy rain, it's going to hit up on here, but it's not going to be able to jump and create an erosion effect. So that air conditioner has the same flashing detail on it. So that metal piece you see goes below this, and it's down here. So now the water will come and trickle out this way versus trying to roll back into the gasket. So both of them are done the same way. That one up there is the same way. So that's the design of them. And if you have a guy do your service work on there, you know, put them back. You know, make sure they put them back. Make sure they put the stands on there. The stands give them balance. So we got, again, all of this is all heat welded. This is all heat welded together. So there's no way it's going to leak. So I think I already went over this. This is your intake. That's your solar fan. In the cooler times of the year, even like, you know, in the fall and getting all the way through the winter and the spring, you may have some dew. You may even have some frost sitting on top here. And you have an inner lens and you have an outer lens. So when you're in the shower, that lens you see, it's not this one, it's another one. So there's a cavity in between here. So what can happen is the condensation that's on here, the sun comes up and it evaporates this off, but it can't evaporate what's up underneath. You're going to have condensation on both sides, or you're going to have frost, we'll say, on both sides. So when this pulls off, evaporates out, what's up underneath can't get evaporated. So it diffuses down to condensation, it'll trickle down on the inside of the lens, and then it can get around the roof deck. When it gets around the roof deck, it causes rot. So it's known as dry rot because it's not a leak, it's just condensation. So once that happens, then your screws loosen up because there's nothing to grab it. And people constantly keep slobbering and slobbering and slobbering the self-leveling on there, but there's no way to hold the lens down. And the caulking is not an adhesive, so it doesn't perform. So this, you don't have that issue. Because once the sun comes up to evaporate this off, that solar fan kicks on. So it'll pull air from here. There's a piece of ductwork that goes in. It'll go in that cavity in between the two lenses, and it comes back out. And it'll keep cycling. The other advantage is, I know a lot of people claim that there's a lot of heat generated in here, which is, you know, going to happen because you got the sun there. There's no ventilation in there, so there's no way for the heat to escape. So it's just going to radiate down into the coach. And a lot of folks will put, you know, some pillows up there or some, you know, aluminum or something to kind of reflect or curb the heat up. But what that does is basically going to bake. You got an oven going on right now. That's what's going to happen. This will keep it cooler. You keep that constant humidity and moisture out. So I can't warranty, obviously, that. I don't warranty the lenses or anything like that. We warranty the roof system for sure, but we don't warranty. You can't warranty any of that. I didn't make those, but all that said, that's how this operates. This will never come off. Up inside here is a screen, so you don't have to worry about bees or anything trying to get in. And then that cap right there is for plumbing. Now, if that cap pops off, if a branch took it off, it's no worry because the way that's designed, the only place water can go is into the holding tank. So on RVs, they have this base cover that kind of goes over, and then they put that cover on there, and you have that little gap in there, and that's where you get the water. When the cap pops off, it gets inside that cap, and all they do is put butyl and stuff. That's their quick way of doing it. But this is a permanent way, so I'll even show you here. See, it's all sealed, so there's no way you can get water in there. It's done. So, and everything we use here, this is all commercial. Everything is commercial, every bit of it. There's nothing RV on these roofs whatsoever, not even the caulking. So, down here on the antenna, you can see what we did here is basically we put it, again, up on bolts like this on these mounts. And I did that because if you have an issue with this antenna, if it fails or a tree branch clips it or whatever, and it breaks, you have to replace it. You can undo those, they're galvanized bolts as well. You can undo all that, undo the coax. You don't have to interrupt any caulking whatsoever, nothing. Go get another one, put it on, screw it down, make sure you get it level and balanced, read the directions on that, it's real easy. And then that's all you gotta do really. But if you, underneath here is a set bolt. If you put it back right where it is and don't mess with the bottom one, then you're good. Put the coax back on, it's working. It's that simple. So you don't have to interfere with any caulking. On some of the other ones are bat wings. Those are a little different. I call them bat wings, but those are a little different. But these are awesome design, and it's foolproof. So once we get all that done, obviously the roof is all fully adhered down, and then when we put this gutter on, we glued it on there, and behind every one of these screws is caulking. We caulked every single screw. I wouldn't mind taking apart this black. Like the black, it's a good product, but it's a little more rigid than the white we use. So, and I have to special order all this stuff. So what you see on here, I don't sell anything at all. We're not basically a sales center, if you will. We're more of a service center. So we just work on them. And but I have to buy this stuff at 2 miles, daggone near 2 miles at a time. This and the white. So, but the black here, like I said, it's a lot more rigid for some reason. And sometimes you have to put it in a microwave to warm it up. But there's 2 strikes of caulking on top, and once we get this on here and glued, all the screws are sealed. Then what we do is we put 1 strike on there. That cures, and then we go back and put another strike. And the reason we do that is because if you've ever operated a caulking gun and you start squeezing the trigger on that, you're going to hear a little pop and crackle. And it doesn't matter what the brand is. It doesn't matter how expensive it is. It could be, this is top quality stuff. But it's all put in the little container there, the little tube, the same way. And there's going to be air in there. So you're going to hear that air. So when you start coming along and you squeeze it, you hear the pop and crackle. You just basically injected air in there. So I put 2 strikes on there, and I figure, what are the chances of having 1 air bubble land on top of another? That's really why I do it, to err on the side of caution. So everything is done that way. And then you're probably saying, hey, the guy didn't put screws in here. We don't put screws in here. We fully adhere these lenses down. They're not going anywhere. I've been doing it for years. They don't go anywhere. The products we use, there's no way that thing's coming up. If you crack this thing, or it gets cracked, whatever, got to replace it, you're going to have a tough time trying to get that off. And the new one will have to be prepped as well. And then, you can get with us and say, hey, I need some product and so forth, and we could try to arrange it for you if you really needed to, or if a customer brings it in, we'll do it ourselves. But the warranty, like I said, this is a 20-year roof system. All you have to do is just bring it back to us. We like to see it come back, because then we can check our work, make sure everything is just the way it should be, the way you paid us to do it. It's free. So we really like to see them come back. It helps to make sure everything is fine. And what we're doing is we're checking the caulking, we're checking the welds. It takes like 15 minutes as a rule. I know it stinks, but if there's anything wrong with it, then obviously we're going to take care of it. Meaning, like, say there's something on our end that wasn't done right and it causes some damage. Well, we're going to dig it out, we're going to fix it, we're going to repair it. That's part of the collateral warranty. But if you just don't ever come in and something happens, then you come back one time and go, hey, I got an issue. I'll be like, well, that was only a little bit of caulking or something simple that we could have done had we seen it. That's kind of not fair to me. I'm willing to stand behind the work. I just want to see it. It's that simple. So, and it doesn't have to be exactly a year. Some people have asked me, oh, it's coming up about that. It could be 9 months, whatever. It could be 13 months. I just want to see it. I know people make plans to do things, and coming to get an inspection may interfere with that. So try to schedule it as you're coming through or coming back or something like that, I'm easy to work with. I just don't ever want anybody to think that we put a roof on, took your money, and we don't want to see you back until you have to spend more money. That's not the kind of shop we are. That's why we're a small shop, and that's probably why we stay covered up. But, again, I just want to see it and make sure everything is just the way you paid us to do it. So other than that, I think we've covered everything on here. Like I said, and also we don't quote on social media. We don't do any of that stuff there. We do have a Facebook group page. All the ads and the things that come up on this YouTube channel here, we don't monetize, so if you want to skip them, you go right ahead. We're not YouTube content makers. The reason I put these videos together is so the customer can see all the work we did, because everybody has questions. What'd you see? What'd you find? How'd you fix it? And this is a good way to show it right here. So, we're not afraid to show the type of work we do. And, I think everybody else should do it that way, personally, but, they don't. But, and I've seen a lot of YouTubers out there that are just not giving you the right information. And it's a shame, but, it's just the way it is, I guess. People get into it, and they think they're a carpenter, and they're putting down these roofs the same exact way the manufacturer did, and that's wrong. It didn't work then. It's not going to work if you do it a second time. You know, they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly, expecting different results, right? And that's basically what you got. So, but this system, it's a done and done deal. You're done, like literally. You have to worry about it. It's I think that's about it. So, you know, do all your homework. I try to give information. Some people think I'm bashing like these spray and roll-on roofs. I'm not bashing them. The products can work for a commercial roof, but curbs are what stop leaks. So, and as the water comes around, like these penetrations, it's going to get diverted around. That's the whole idea of these curbs, and these are called boots. That's the whole idea of those. They move water away from a penetration. So when you have them sitting on the roof and you just try to coat it and so forth, you're still going to get an erosion effect on there. The products may last, but on the end of trying to replace something, for instance, on a spray or roll-on roof, if you got to replace that lens or that vent, or even if you have some issues with a failed gasket on an air conditioner, you're going to have to rip it up, do all that work, and once you get all that work done, then you're going to have to go back to them for another reapplication. So if the gaskets never failed, they wouldn't keep selling them. So just keep that in mind. Same thing with the vent. You got a vent issue, you go to replace it. If this is a spray or roll-on roof, you got to tear it all up, you know, replace your vent, then you got to go back to them, because they're not going to give you the product. They're not going to do that at all. They hold on to it. They're like, hey, this is our proprietary blend, and they're not going to give it out. So you have to go back to them to have that done. This here, push come to shove, and you're like, hey Joe, I got some serious problems. I got a tree that went through. I can't make it to your shop to do it. How do I patch this thing? This is a Carlisle roof membrane. This is probably one of the most common roof membranes in the country. Almost every commercial roofer knows about Carlisle. Real simple. So push come to shove, you don't really have to come back to me if you had that much, you know, a tree branch that knocked a hole in it, and you know you really needed it repaired. You know, you can seek out a local commercial roofer and say, hey, by the way, I got this hole right here. Can you know, heat weld the patch on it and so forth. What we do is give folks patch material, and I also give them a roof patch and caulking. So that's what we call our care package. So we put that in there for emergencies, just in case a tree branch. It would have to be a really sharp and heavy tree branch to poke a hole in this stuff. But what I'm getting at is this isn't proprietary. This is a commercial roof. That's what it is, through and through. So you can get it anywhere is my point. So, you know, the other places, they want you to go back to them or whatever. Like I said, they're just not going to go, here you go. You know, they want to be able to keep a close rein on all that stuff. So the actual membrane is 60 mil TPO. That's what it is. TPO means thermoplastic. So it's weldable. You know, that's what we do. We use a hot air gun that welds everything together. So we get these three standard colors. You can see the tan, the gray, and the white. There's all our information right there. And then, probably not on this one too much. This is a good one here, but normally you'll see, if I get the light right, you can barely see it with the light, but there's a mesh built into here. Actually, you can see some of it right here on the edge. This little bit. There's a mesh built into it, which gives it its strength against tree branches and hail and so forth. We've never had an issue with anybody who said, hey, you know, hail peppered it up, I got to get it replaced. Or even a tree branch really did any damage. Because it can handle a good gouge, it can handle a good scratch. This is really thick stuff. And this is called 60 mil. So not only do we take the customer out of a regular RV roof, that low budget, cheap grade material, the entry level on a commercial membrane is 45 mils, which is a little thinner. We upgraded yet to a 60. So well, we actually moved you up one. Then on the gutters right here that I was trying to show you, this is the insert trim that we use. And what I like about it is it's got a nice bulb shape. So when the water comes down, there's a water adhesion principle where it's going to bond to this and get into the gutter. That part I like, but the other part I like about it is right here, you can see it's got a little groove. And that little groove sits in that track. So now, not only is it sealed inside, it's sealed on the inside and outside. That's what I like about it, and that's why I buy it and use it. So, but like I said, they don't sell this anything less than 10,000 linear feet. So, anyhow, that's about sums up everything. And you know, if you like the video, sure do. What do you do, the like thing or whatever? I'm not really all up on all that social media stuff. Like I said, I just put them together. I think you all know about how all that works anyways. So, but we appreciate you watching. And then, that's what I didn't say. The last part here, the reason I put those stamps on there is when it comes back for inspections, I like to see how the roof is performing, how old it is, you know, even caulking and all sorts of stuff. I like to see how it's performing. But also, if the customer did sell the camper, we do a transferable warranty. So, you know, you don't want to put some money into it, and then in a few years, 5 years, whatever, you got to sell it. Someone comes up and goes, you know what, I'm going to have to talk you down because, you know, I know these RV roofs are pretty bad. You know, hey, wait a minute, this thing is still under warranty. There's this tag right there. So it's really that simple. And a lot of customers have sold their coaches, and when those folks come in, I ask them one of the reasons why they bought this particular coach, you know, because they look at a lot of them, and they say because the roof is still under warranty, and we don't have to deal with it. So, you know, that could be a good selling point. So, well, we appreciate you watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Package. Right. So, in our care package, we have caulking, we got primer, we have got 2 patches. Those are heat patches. We got a patch, peel and stick patch. We got a checker tool. We've got a magnet. And the rest of this is just pens, keychains, brush, nozzle. Okay, so if we have a hole in the roof, it will simulate a hole. You can do hole simulations. We say we got a hole there. Here's your tree branch come through and you're like, oh man, I got a hole in my roof, it's leaking. So what you want to do, and it's raining out. Right now it's raining, you're like, crap, I gotta stop that leak. You want to get in there, and if you can't get that nozzle in there, don't worry about it. Make it a little bigger. What you try and do, you need to get up underneath the roofing, like this. This is what we need to do, get up underneath the roofing. Then you're going to take and you're going to put this up inside there, and you're going to squeeze, 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 squeeze. Hopefully this thing is plugged up. There it goes. Just squeeze, squeeze. You want to try and get up underneath this part too. Squeeze up underneath there. Put some more underneath there. Well, we are getting this thing all boogered up. Then what we're going to do, you're going to push it together. See how it oozes out? That's sealed. You're done. This is a moisture cured product. So what? It's a hot mess. Looks terrible. Who cares? Keep the water out. So now, the next day, we're going to go up there, and that's going to be cured looking like that. So we're going to take a knife, and you just shave it down. Just shave it down with a knife. I'm just going to obviously wipe this off. Now you say, hey, I want something a little better than that. So what we're going to do is get some cleaner. This is a terrible rag. You got another one. You got one on you? Oh, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag. What you gonna talk about, man? Nope, just leave it alone. Oh, leave it alone right now. We're recording now? Are we on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alright, so now we cleaned it off with a knife. I just washed that off because it's still wet. Take that off. So now we got a patch. This is a peel and stick patch. We're going to take that, we're going to center it over there. Just take a pen and go around like this. I like to kind of put a dash like that so I know who's where, what, and where, and how. So now there's what I got. So in the package we got primer. We also have a brush. We're going to take that, you're going to go all inside the square. You're also going to go outside this square about 3/8 of an inch. Outside about 3/8 of an inch or so. Once you get that, there's a film on the back. You peel the film, now you know which side you are, see, because there's your marks. And you peel that film back. Get the fat fingers in there to get the film off of this thing. This is just a regular roof tape. That's all it is. We put them in all the care packages. Get that daggum thing off of there. Probably need some fingernails. Probably help. Come on. There it is. Okay. Hey, there it is. Now you got the film. You take that film. So now we're going to line it back up with this. We already got the primer under there. You just peel the film back, and as you do, you just rub it down like this. Sometimes that film will get a little stuck in there. This is just a butyl. You just kind of try to keep it as even as you can and flat as you can. Boom, you're done. There it is. So now, out here, this is where your primer is. You put the primer on there. You got primer there, and now you're going to put primer here. You want to prime all this area with your brush. Prime all that. Then you're going to come back. Once you get it all primed, then you're going to put a little bit of caulking on it, just like this. That's simple. If it doesn't all sit in there, you can always take your finger and go around it if you want. We're trying to obviously stop a leak and make one of. There's going to be a little more permanent of a patch than just that plug that we did when it was raining. So now that we get that all done, the whole purpose of it is this part here. This part underneath here, that's a butyl. When the sun hits that, if you didn't have the caulking on there, it will cause it to release and curl up just like I'm doing here. And it'll start coming loose. That's why you need the primer. That's why when you prime it, you're going to prime on top of this, because nothing will stick to it. Nothing, the caulking will not stick to this patch, and it won't stick to the roof unless you use the primer. That's how you do a patch. Ta-da! All done.